YouTube channel. Today's topic is define the concept national interest in international relations, development of national interest from ancient time to present era, determinants. Today's topic is kinds and types. Because all these I have delivered in last two lectures. Okay. Now, kinds and types of national interest in international system or global system. The various Western scholars propounded different kinds of national interest considering the political and economic conditions before World War II and their affiliation with their European countries. Because all scholars, majority of scholars belong to Europe, their concepts have become outdated. Their concepts have become outdated with the changing global circumstances owing to technological advancement and enhanced international intercourse or interaction among countries of the world. In today's world, kinds presented by these Western scholars have become obsolete and lost its relevance. These scholars divided national interest into various kinds suited to their time and countries in 6 types or more, or 2 or 4 types. Today, the world is changed and enemies of state have become obvious, so the national interest have assumed different forms. The adversaries of today's are interacting with each other to get their national interest at the same time confronting with each other on many issues. Today, world is world of cooperation and coexistence with confrontation or conflict. That is why the kinds and nature has changed due to current international or global system. It is concluded from the study of global politics that there are 2 kinds of national interest. The first is permanent or inevitable and non-negotiable, and the second is non-permanent, negotiable and manageable national interest. Now we come to the first interest. The permanent, inevitable or non-negotiable. The permanent, inevitable or non-negotiable interests of state include the protection and preservation of territorial integrity, political independence, and ideological, social, cultural identity of the state against possible encroachments from outside powers. These are inevitable and non-negotiable or permanent national interests, and the state must then defend them at all cost. The states and people of the world have been fighting and sacrificing their lives at the cost of protecting this national interest, a permanent interest, a territorial interest. In present era, states acquire power to protect this national interest or permanent interest. The states that could not protect this type of national interest were subjugated by other states and become colonies or merged with usurpers. The people of Asia, Africa, South America valiantly fought and made enormous sacrifices to get their motherland from powerful European colonial powers. The liberation of Vietnam, Korea from powerful Western powers proves the fact. The people sacrificed unparalleled in the annals of history. These peoples sacrificed unparalleled in the annals of history. The Afghan War or Afghan Jihad against USSR and also USA after 9/11 and withdrawal of US forces proved that people defend it at any cost. The liberation of Kuwait from even brotherly Arab country Iraq corroborates the importance of permanent interest. The valiant struggle of Palestinian people against entire Western world to achieve their homeland is also a glaring example of this permanent national interest. The intruder has to leave the land. The people of states are willing to sacrifice all and stand against powerful enemies to defend the permanent interest. The tiny states of Taiwan is struggling to protect this permanent interest against powerful China. The Baltic countries stood against the tiny Baltic. These are tiny states, very tiny, very small states. And the Baltic countries stood against USSR and achieved their permanent interest of independence, our national interest. The people of Ukraine are fighting against powerful Russia to protect their independence. The war in Ukraine is for protection of permanent interest from either side. The policy of Pakistan against India is an example of protecting permanent interest. No any state can compromise on this interest at any cost. Permanent interest is constant and long-term interest of the state. Number 2, non-permanent, negotiable or manageable interest. The non-permanent, negotiable and manageable interests are those interests which can be achieved by negotiation, diplomatic management among states on established forums under international law and United Nations system. These are achieved through power of persuasion or diplomacy, you may say, by global friends and organizations, and do not allow states to reach point of no return. The power of persuasion, no doubt, takes time, but avoid destruction and misery over the people. The states have assumed maturity in international system and managed to live with each other in cooperation and confrontation. The states, due to external pressure, contain themselves within the ambit of prevalent system and desist from paying the heavy cost for national interest. The non-permanent interests include economic and commercial agreements or pacts for achieving mutual economic, commercial, social, cultural and strategic interest and benefits from each other. These include all relations among states and people of the world within the national and international law. All states of the world consider these interests as collective interest necessary for peace, harmony and survival in the world. They collectively work for attaining these interests through negotiation or use of good office of United Nations system. These are identical of all states. These interests are identical of all interests are same. In order to achieve this type of national interest, states do not resort to war. After the destruction of world wars and other wars between states, they now avoid war, as the war is not limited to two warring states. It engulfs entire community in one or the other way. The entire community forces other states to restrain and mediate to solve the issue. The US and Iran, since decades, did not fight with each other because the permanent interests are not in jeopardy. World powers and organizations pursued them for adopting diplomatic channels and prevented war. The China and Taiwan is another issue. The global community is playing its role and pursuing both to avoid confrontation. All states protect its citizens in other states through diplomacy or the diplomatic channels, as they consider it their non-permanent interest. States protest with each other on many issues, but remain within limits. The present international system prevents the states from acting beyond limits. The USA, Russia, China, and European powers, despite being powerful, remain within the limits and abide by the prescriptions of international system. The India and Pakistan in South Asia has many disputes, but refraining from war due to the pressure of global community. African states also desisting from war and using diplomatic channels for solving their unsettled issue. Wish you good luck. See you in next lecture, which will be ways and means for acquiring the national interest.